Hi, Patricia Babin here. I've been looking forward to trying to do this tape for you as, may I quote Allison from Travel Snacks, the one that started this whole thing. And she says, "You're my heart." And I love that she said that to you. You're my heart. So I don't think that's difficult for me to say whether I heard her say that or not. If it wasn't those words, it would be something very similar. You have just so blessed me with the comments that you've been leaving. I can't tell you how much it means to me. And the point of this video is to try to give you a little bit of an understanding of myself because so many of you have asked. And my thoughts about you are constant in terms of wanting to help so that you feel safe, happy, and inspired, things like that. So I thought I would try to produce a video. I'm trying to keep it short about my life, just so that it might help you understand me a little bit and relate anywhere you can or want to your own life. That's been on my mind. So it's not all easy though. My story is not easy. It's pretty tough. I don't mean that like I live that thought. I don't. But when I do speak to people about it, sometimes I can hear what's coming out of my mouth that feels normal to me is not normal to many. And yet, we've all been through quite a bit in the past few years, 2 years at least. Mine is another year on top of that one. But anyway, that's another way of looking at what really has been since the beginning of my life. It's been pretty tough. So I'll just quickly mention that I'll try to quickly mention. I was born in Massachusetts in the United States, in case this is going out of the country, and it most likely is. Had a very difficult time the first 6-7 years of my life. I have siblings, and there was a divorce and remarriage and another divorce, things like that. So for my mother, I mean, lived with my mother and my siblings. And until I was 7, I don't think I felt okay. Those first 6 years were really pretty devastating, is the way it feels to me. And those 6 years or 5 years of our lives, all of us collectively, meaning any child being born, that is a cat tapping on something on the window, on the dashboard, being silly, making a noise. Those first 5 to 6 years of our lives are our formative years. They set up the pattern for our lives. So I have been trying to understand that because there's blanks in my head about it. A lot of people do, especially when you're really young. You don't remember. And if there's something traumatic, oftentimes we shut that off. But I kept crashing on those feelings. I would feel better, try to go forward. You're fine. You do this, do that. You get your college degree. There's something you can do with that or whatever. And it just seemed like I was always in an issue. So between ages 7 and 11, I'm guessing now, I was trying to think this through. Those were pretty good years. And I loved being around my family, and I loved the neighborhood I grew up in, and I loved spending Sundays with my father, with or without my siblings, my sister and brother. But yet, that record still plays in you, the difficult times. It's not like your spirit is just reborn because things got better. You tend to carry that energy of our youth with us. So I do primarily feel that it was good times, meaning I spent a lot of time. 1 minute, I gotta rescue a cat. You want to see Thaddeus since he's crawling by me? I might be able to get him on the camera. Come here. Show yourself, little baby. Who's that? He is such a love bug. He gives kisses and hugs and everything. He's a rag doll. And now you think they're fantastic. Oh, now he's being silly. Okay. He's only 4. He's still got a lot of kitten in him. The I was saying that you still carry those, early years, but a lot of mine were blank. They really were. There was a lot of blank spaces, from 0 to 4. I don't even think we carry memories unless you're one of those people that are capable of that. We carry a little bit. You don't carry much. I mean, it's minimal. So by the time I'm 6, I wish I could tell you more, but I guess I'm trying to make this as short and quick as I can. And well, somewhere when my preteen years start, that I start to ache for a new friend. I mean, there was so many friends in that neighborhood, and we were always outdoors. It was fun. But I started to feel that I wasn't getting, preteens, you change, your energy shifts, and I wasn't getting something I needed. So I prayed for a friend. I remember looking out the living room window and saying, I need somebody that's going to be a good friend for me. Well, one showed up right after that. Her name was Scylla. And we were good friends through pretty much the junior high time to the high school time. And then she was taking off for California, which, is ironically where I am now. I never expected to be here. I'm a New England girl, born and bred. But here I am, and I do love the people here. I do. I love the weather. I'm just saying that my father made a lot of things very difficult too, and he stopped speaking to me, and I didn't understand why. It went on for like 23 years. It finally broke by his decision. He broke the silence and sent me a birthday card, and I went to see him in Florida after that. But there's a lot that happened in those 23 years, of course. I did go to college, and I love college in general. And what I wanted to do was to be an artist, take an art major, and become an early childhood ed teacher as well. So that was on my plan, and I take responsibility for this as much as I feel sad about it. Both parents put that idea down for me. And as soon as they did that, I just shut it off, and I was so unhappy not following my heart. So I really wish with all my heart now that I had done that. I had taken on the art major. I still want to do it. I'm 65 this month, and I want to become an not art teacher, but I want to really learn painting from good artists that speak to my heart, my way of seeing the world. Excuse me, I got hiccups. And so I didn't do that, and then by the time I got through college, I almost want to step back for a minute. At the end of high school, I knew I wanted to go to college. So for the first time in my life, I really pulled myself together and got good grades. I could pull good grades, but not all subjects and not all the time, because my focus wasn't always on my schoolwork, and I was pretty sad at times. So that's what happens. So I managed to pull the honor roll at the end of my high school years, so that I could get into a college I wanted, and I did it. Well, something similar happened in college. I got in there, and my grandfather had died when I was 18, and that's like losing my father to me. And then my father, my real father, that's when the 23-year silence thing began. He really upset me a lot, and not that he hadn't all through his life. Believe me, he did. He's part of the reason I'm heavy. It's to do with that. But anyway, he wanted to start some kind of court proceedings, and about money. It was always about money. And I took it really strongly to my heart, because it had been going on for so many years. And this time he was trying to drag me into court, because I'm 18 now. But in Massachusetts, they want parents to support their kids through college, wasn't a lot of money, especially these days. It was practically nothing, but it helped the household. My mother was always trying to support 4 kids and um, keep food in the house and the heat and the tank, the whole thing. I paid for my own college plus. Wow, did I pay for college? It took me a lot of years to get that loan paid. I only borrowed like 12,000, and I think I paid back at least double that. No, I think it was even more than double that, because it was always on deferments for my life story. Caused me to pull myself out of the payment schedule, but I never dropped the ball on my responsibility. I did what was needed to make things right. So I did finally get that paid. But the thing is, after coming out of school, it took me another half a year to go for what is called a general studies degree that I didn't want. It felt really strange. This is liberal arts, and this is not. The point of the general studies degree is for somebody to cultivate what they want for their education that might not fit the mold. Well, I didn't do it for that reason. Some friend suggested it to me, and I said, well, it sounds like a path that might work, because I really didn't know what to do. And the deans, I got a letter saying you're going to leave, you're going to be kicked out if you don't get your grades together. So I went and saw this counselor, and we talked about the general studies idea, and he told me you have to take, he made me take music appreciation for some reason, and I can't remember what else. But I got out of there, and it was 4.5 years. It was Salem State in Massachusetts. It's just now Salem State College. And got out of college, and I did not know what to do with my life. At the same time, my mother was going through a pretty big crisis, which wasn't, it was kind of the story of my life, where we would be sort of okay, even happy at times. My little brother was with us at that point, and then something would always seem to come in and knock me for a loop. I'd be feeling good about possibilities of having a life for myself or something, and I can't tell you how hard it's been. A life for myself. Yes, that is the word I just said. A life for myself. I took care of my mother much more than I wanted to, and I know that she felt the need to be there for me in a way that I don't know how to explain this to you. It's like the very source of the problem is trying to create the answer when it's not. It's crazy. It's codependency, but it's sort of insane. Like, she's sort of telling me at one point that I'm a burden. That was not uncommon. That was in my childhood years, running around in there. You're a burden. You're not worth anything. You're whatever. You don't exist. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff that was on me. This time, I had been taking care of her since I was born, is what it felt like to me, because I felt her sorrow, and I stood up for her to my father at 2 years old. So I was taking care of her from a very young age until she died, which was only in 2003. And at the same time, I was trying to find a way to be me, be the person that I was meant to be from God's point of view. And there's so much I wanted to do, and I never did it. It was just crazy to have all that passion and simplicity, and I don't need anybody to validate what I wanted to do. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to get out into the world. And it's clearer now, of course. Hindsight is 2020, but get out in the world and just be myself. It was pretty hard. I don't know how else to explain it. It was really pretty hard. Finally, when she passed, oh my God, you wouldn't believe that one. Really hard. You getting a point here? I also got married in 1991. I was married. See, I was reversing the numbers. A little dyslexic. And he was diagnosed with MS just before. He was diagnosed when we were engaged. course, diagnosis for MS is very indefinite. They don't really say you absolutely have this. And I felt in my heart, being who I am, that I didn't want to leave this man that I felt I loved, and that I should stay by him if I love him. But there was a moment before he was diagnosed too when I thought I wanted to leave, and I really think I should have, under the conditions that we were both in. Um, I gave up having children for that marriage that became a caregiver's marriage, is what I did. And I hurt myself physically. I got hurt lifting him, and my back is pretty bad now from that and a cleaning service I ran from both parents encouraging me to run this cleaning service. Doesn't this sound crazy to you? This father that I only see on Sundays, and then he doesn't talk to me for 23 years, is a piece of that puzzle, because he was employing me to clean his house, and then it got a little bit more so with an extended family member in the same neighborhood, that kind of thing. Never wanted to clean houses. It's just sort of like, well, you're not worth anything, so we'll let you clean, that kind of thing. And then my mother, when she got into her last big mess there, she came in with me to the cleaning service. What else was I going to do? I was worried about her. I didn't know what she was going to do. She was so depressed. It was a mess. So I finally get her out there to clean, and now she's thinking, well, this is some money that we can count on, and I don't want to upset the apple cart kind of thing. And, I ended up staying in it much longer than I wanted to. And I was never happy about it. So I didn't even feel like I had control over my own finances or anything. I didn't really learn how to take care of money for myself. I did work other jobs too. I mean, I'd worked Wells Fargo and things like that, but it's hard to explain when you just feel like that. You feel the way I felt. I'm sure you might know. It's like you get stuck in a pattern and you don't know how to get yourself out. But I did try counseling. I did lots of that. I went to the Catholic Charities because it was free, and I did something else that was free, and nothing worked. Nothing. It wasn't until I should mention that as she's passing, you wouldn't believe what happened. The energy on my spiritual, which is a big spirit. It is. I mean, I could go into that in another time, but not now. I have a big spirit. Became very challenged by uncomfortable energy, is all I'll say. And I'm not an advocate of believing in the devil, so you can wipe that right out. Erase it. And I'll tell you something, not believing in the devil really helps. It's not that I don't feel negative energy. I do. It's not that I don't get my challenges. I do. But I'm speaking from experience that by abandoning that thought, which is not a childhood belief either, it wasn't, by letting go of that, really helped a lot. So anytime I began to feel crowded by this energy, it's really people's energy, and it's really thought forms that are in the air that we create, because we are all creators. And being a creator and not knowing you're a creator, and then entertaining all these thoughts, and then trying to deal with all of it, it just like a vicious cycle almost. And if you're not feeling so great about yourself or your life, you're certainly going to attract that to you, like two magnets. I don't know if I showed you that, but you're holding two magnets, and the thoughts here and the thoughts here match, they snap together. But if you're holding those two magnets and you've got them backwards, there's a big force right there that will not they will not come together. So if you think of this as a positive experience, these two magnets are going to come together. You love someone, he loves you, or she loves you, whatever, and this energy comes in and it goes right together. That's perfect. That's wonderful. But when you don't love somebody and you're attracting them, it doesn't have to just be a person. It could be money. It could be health. It could be anything. And you're pulling that energy together. Well, we don't like that, right? So now this is the best part. Every time I said to myself, because I've been through this twice now, at least, I'd say 3 times. The last time was the story that's coming up. And every time I say to myself, you create it. If you like it, you create it. If you don't like it, you create it. And every time I take responsibility and take charge of that feeling, it is so much easier to deal with it. So much easier because you are in power. You have power. So here's the two things that you it's like I was saying, like if you do them backwards, I'm trying to use my hands backwards, and you can't bring bad energy at you. It's like it's gonna maybe do this, but it can't come together. So if you're not holding something here in this inside of you, there's an energy that runs around your body. If you're not holding something there that has the same energy to a problem, it can't touch you. Isn't that amazing news? I traveled all the way down the country knowing that. And every time I got scared or worried about anything, even a little bit, I'd say, you know better. Don't be the same energy of the problem, right? So I would stop it and I would turn my energy around and I'd start doing whatever it is I was doing at the time. It's always God, but it's whatever it is that gets me feeling better. Whatever. It could be something silly like a song you could put on YouTube that makes you laugh, something to break the cycle of that concern. And then once you're feeling better, you can process more of the thought. You can do that. Well, anyway, that got me all the way down here to California from Northeast Maine, including COVID. So I left a little nook in Maine. It's so rural and charming there to me. Almost any place that's rural is charming to me. And there was very little COVID, if any. And it was just about to, New York was starting to go up into Maine. I don't know if you knew anything. If you're not from the area, it probably doesn't mean anything to you. But many of the people in New York City actually went up into the rural part of Maine and probably Vermont and things like that too. And the housing became a really big issue, especially when I was losing my house from mold. The rental I had was mold. So I actually drove into COVID, is what I'm trying to say. I left Northeast Maine in the comfort of this very little COVID to whatever. That's my path. I'll just have to do better at how I feel about it. And I would, and I got going and I went south. That's what this means, south. North is that way. So I drove down the coast, actually being chased by a snowstorm. It was a pretty bad storm. It was coming across the country and up the coast, and I'm going down the coast and across the country. So I didn't know what to do at first, and I ran into a deep discount store. I think it's Big Lots, and I got a shovel, orange thick, vest, a sweatshirt jacket with a hood, and some salt. I'm a New Englander. I know what you need. I can get myself out of a pretty stuck spot. If it isn't full of snow all around me, like a plow needs to be there, if it's just around my tires, I usually can get myself out. So I got those things in the car, and I ended up getting rid of them not too long after I got into California because it's just too hard to keep a hold of things like that. But I didn't want to step over was there was a lot of years in there that I was seeking peace in my own path, and I didn't feel I had the freedom to do that. And it's so contrary to my nature, which is a very free spirit, a very confident, independent spirit. Woman issues do not haunt me. Like, you're a woman, you can't. I don't do that to myself. There's a very creative side to me. It's a very, very dear piece of how I express myself. And it wasn't until actually my husband and I divorced in 2000. My mother died in 2003. And I was so burned out taking care of my husband, and I mean burned out, that I was lucky to have even a little bit of time before my mother needed me more. I think I had a year, 2 tops, before she started getting much worse. She had diabetes and congestive heart failure. And that time again was spiritually, I sure didn't see that one coming, but I get it a little bit better now. Um, and I got through it, and I'm not going to go into it. I never talk about that time because it's too hard to even understand it myself sometimes. But there was a lot of power happening too. Things were happening around me. I felt like there was a league of angels at my side constantly as well. And I got into this tiny little cottage in Ipswich, Mass, that I think had 600 square feet to it, with the ocean right outside my window, this little bay window. And I would go to work still cleaning houses. And I would come across that peninsula at night, and I would just shut the world off behind me as I drove down that beautiful path. And I would get to my little tiny cottage, and I would shut the door, and I was healing. I was starting to heal. It was around that time that I also began to meditate a lot more. And I felt this amazing energy coming into my body. It was really kind of interesting one day, at least in particular, that I remember my foot was up on the table, the coffee table, this little tiny table I had. I had a little tiny sofa, love seat. That was about it. A fish tank and a king-size waterbed, because that's what I had left over from my marriage. And tiny kitchen, all this, it really helps. To have small kind of helps a lot of times. So I'm meditating, and this energy comes into me, and I actually open my eyes, and I'm looking at my foot. That is, it can't really see it, but inside my foot there's this heavenly vibration happening. I get the other kind. I know what the difference is. There's a vibration that's happening lately that I think is more to do with nerve damage, and I get that. I know what that is. This wasn't that. So I was actually, my own spirit was coming into myself, is what was